Set 20 years after the first film, Alien Romulus is Fede Alvarez's take on the long-running franchise after Neil Blomkamp got unceremoniously booted from doing his movie.
This time, we're following a bunch of young colonists who break into a derelict space station to gather materials to travel off the dystopian shithole planet they live on, hopefully to a place halfway decent.
But we can't make that easy for them, so we throw our old pals the Xenomorphs in there to give them an interesting challenge. First thing that stands out is the costume and set design. It looks absolutely amazing. It retains the retro late 70s, early 80s style to keep it consistent between films, kind of like how they do with Star Wars. Down to the buttons and the CRT monitors, which is reminiscent of the first movie. It's kind of funny how things were done because of technological limitations, and now we stick old shit back in there because it's nostalgic.
Hey, some nostalgia is good, generally speaking. I mean, look, this movie looks great, like you said, but it also has a little something extra to it. You know, you see the influence, you see the inspiration. I think it's fair to say that all these movies get a lot of that right, and many of us expect that. So you know when they do something wrong, they're going to get called out for it.
It's all good, sir. No, it ain't all good.
The cinematography was on point. It captured the gloomy industrial dystopian future as the other entries of the series. It really feels like you're on the ships and the Weyland-Yutani mining sectors. And of course, the aliens themselves. They brought back the classic xenomorph design and added in some really erotic imagery that would have made H.R. Giger really proud.
Yeah, I think the director of photography did a really solid job. The look, the lights, the depth of vision in space, on board the vessel. I mean, it was spot on, like you said. It really does put you in it, and not only that, it keeps you in it. I mean, the immersion into the imagery. And look, I doubt there was anybody in the audience who couldn't feel the mood.
The sound design was good for the most part, but there were times where I had a tough time understanding some of the actors because, you know, they have these thick accents. You know, and sometimes they intercut with the radio footage, so it just made some of the dialogue unintelligible, so I couldn't really understand what was going on once in a while. But, you know, other than that, most of the time I can understand them fine.
Yeah, man, I mean, once again, I expect the sound design to be good, and I want it to be great in theater, part of that theater experience, right?
Oh my god, this is so awesome.
I personally didn't have any issues with the accents, but I bet I know whose accent caused you some issues. But hey, at least you didn't have to worry about that person in the entire film. And the score, also good. All I'm going to say is there are some callbacks musically, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and about the story and the characters, you know, generally speaking, I think they did a good job overall. Haley Spaney as Rain is excellent, but she does look super young to me. You know, she had that Ellen Ripley energy to her, you know, if Ellen Ripley was meant to be in high school or something. David Johnson as Andy did a great job too. They had good chemistry overall. I didn't really care about the other characters too much. They tried to give them some character development and reasons for them being, you know, complete dipshits, but I just didn't care for him. There is an interesting character that makes an appearance. We'll talk about him a little bit later.
Yeah, I thought the acting was okay. The two lead characters, like you said, who played Andy and Rain, I thought they did a good job. When I first saw the trailer, I was concerned about the younger cast. I mean, I was like, what the f*** is this? A school field trip gone wrong? But, you know, honestly, they explained things well and where the characters are at in life and why they're doing what they're doing. So it ended up working out. You expect young people to make mistakes and bad decisions, and you expect foolishness. And it doesn't become ridiculous at all in this film. I mean, look at the nonsense of the older characters they had in the other films. Like, look at Prometheus and Covenant. So in that case, this movie didn't do a bad job at all.
There's some great action set pieces here, including one involving gravity, which that's all I'm going to say about that. I did get weary and impatient towards the end. It started to wear out its welcome for me, which I think is a testament to the fact that the story's good, but it's not that riveting. It's like having a bag of chips or a crudité for dinner. It's good, but not enough to keep me satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the story was just okay. I mean, they did a decent job connecting some things and including other things. Overall, I didn't find the plot to be anything special. It's fine. It works. But where it lacks in the story, it makes up in other aspects, right? So I wasn't expecting this movie to be groundbreaking or anything. But hey, we'll go into further detail about the plot.
Yeah, speaking of which, we're going to be talking about spoilers from here on out. If you don't want to hear any, go right to this time code and you'll go straight to the ratings. Okay, spoiler section. So the first big spoiler is that Ian Holm comes back, you know, this time as a character called Rook, the main antagonist of the whole film. He did play a character called Ash in the original Alien, and they were both robots.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically a newer version of Ash, which isn't uncommon for Weyland-Yutani, you know, to reuse the faces for the newer model of synthetics. They did that with David and Walter and Prometheus and Covenant.
Unfortunately, the actor passed away about a couple of years ago, but they bring him back through deepfake technology. You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I mean, it was cool to see Ian Holm again with CGI animatronics and his family's permission, of course. Now, I did hear that some AI was used, but, you know, it didn't take away from human jobs or anything like that. It's only used to make the voice actor they hired sound a little bit more like him.
Yeah, and they also did a thing with aliens where all the aliens at some point go crawling in a vent or something like that. And also the character Andy recreates the famous line, "Get away from her, you bitch," which I thought was so cringe. I absolutely hated that.
Yeah, I definitely got a response in the theater. I would say the majority of everybody there chuckled or laughed. I was kind of surprised they used that line. I don't have an issue with it. Probably would have been better to leave it out, quite frankly, but it is what it is.
I just hate it when movies do that like
It's unnecessary.
that nostalgia bait shit. Yeah, just like, come on, dude,
Yeah.
stand on your own 2 feet. You're your own film. You're your big film now. You can walk on your own. Go. You don't need mommy and daddy to f***ing tell you anything. Another scene too is Alien 3. It's in the trailer, but you know when Rain is face to face with the xenomorph, and then the little mouth comes out of the xenomorph. You know, it's just like, okay, whatever. Alien 3, sure. But one of the coolest additions, though, is they recreated some of the models from the video game Alien Isolation and put them in the actual sets. I thought that was actually pretty cool.
Oh man, I love that game. Came out about, what, 10 years ago? They implemented quite a few things from the game into the film. For example, the emergency phone stations. In the game, that's actually how you save your file. Apparently, the game was a big reason why director Alvarez was keen on working on an Alien film. He really enjoyed playing the game, and so he was inspired by it.
Another big homage was the Prometheus strain. Guess what that's based on? It's the black goo in the film. It becomes a MacGuffin later on that Rook wants the other characters to get and take back to the Weyland-Yutani Company.
Yeah, the black goo is back. I mean, honestly, I wasn't really expecting it to be in this movie, so it was a surprise. But as we know, that goo can do a few things, right? It can create life, like the engineer did in Prometheus. It can eliminate life, like David did, weaponizing it in Alien Covenant. But it can also transform and evolve life too, which essentially is what they intended to do in this movie, Weyland-Yutani, because they wanted to speed up the timeline of human evolution.
Oh yeah, and that brings us to our final homage in the film, at least to my knowledge. Alien Resurrection. The scene where the pregnant lady gets injected with the black goo because she gets like critically wounded at some point, and she has a baby, obviously, so the baby transforms into this big, freaky hybrid between a xenomorph and a human being, which is reminiscent to the finale to Alien Resurrection. That's the part that everyone's talking about in regards to this film. They call it the last 30 minutes, and I thought it was a little, been there, done that, in my opinion.
It's not only just part human, part Xeno, it's also part engineer, right? So somewhere out there, David's like, no, that's not how it's done. I'll show you how it's done.
Yeah, but the anti-gravity seems really cool. It was that point in the film where the aliens need to be taken care of, but you couldn't shoot them with a gun because their blood will eat through, the spaceship and kill everyone. Rain is reminded of that, so she activates the anti-gravity thing and ends up shooting him in space, and you can see all the acid blood fly around. She has to go through it and stuff. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, that entire sequence was pretty dope. I really enjoyed that. I think it's probably one of the best scenes in the whole movie.
Yeah, another cool scene too is the Cryogenic Chamber scene where all the characters get chased by all these face huggers. And that was really cool. However, it's ridiculous when you have so many nimble face huggers running around and only one of the characters gets face hugged. I'm sorry, that's just, no. I get that they wanted a really cool chase scene and stuff, but it just was not believable. And it goes into the bigger problem with the story where it's just like you have so many cool set pieces, but, it's also an abandoned space station. And why is so much important just abandoned on the space station? All the research, the face huggers, all this stuff.
Yeah, it almost doesn't make sense, but for more added tension, they should have just had other characters already on the station. Or they could have had a race against time thing going on where they have to salvage the ship quickly and get the hell out of there, Not just because of the impact into the asteroid field, but having additional human elements could have been beneficial. Another desperate salvage team or Weyland-Yutani final cleanup crew, something like that.
All my gripes aside, it's a fun movie. It's a solid film. For the most part, it makes sense within the corners that they wrote themselves into. The set pieces are amazing. It's beautiful to look at. The characters just do a good job for the most part. So ultimately, I was entertained. I came out pretty entertained. So I give it an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, this movie essentially captures the essence of Alien, and it's a respectful addition to the franchise. That being said, while the film is pretty good, where does it go from here, right? I mean, will they close the gap between Alien Covenant and Alien, like Ridley Scott would have? I don't know. The director has stated that he's interested in co-directing with Prey director Dan Trachtenberg, so maybe an AVP movie done right this time. But I digress. As far as rating Alien Romulus, I give this movie a 7.5 out of 10.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. If you like this review, please hit that like button, subscribe to us, check us out on Spotify. We're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok.
We're on everything, man. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.
See ya.